All right, it's time for our Alberta Blue Cross Meaningful Moment of the Month. And today we're joined by Ben, the brand and creative director from Alberta Blue Cross. Ben, I'd ask you how you're doing today, but you actually just biked all the way down here to the office in the River Valley. How you feeling after that?
We're good, man. It's like the last nice day of summer, maybe early fall. So you got to make the most of that.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, fall, overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
It's a not complete here because we get like 20 minutes of it. If we got, 3 months of fall, then it would be, top season for me.
I said this year, I think it's a little overrated. Fall, everybody says they love the changing of the seasons. They love everything that comes with it. As an Oilers fan, I feel robbed of summer this past year because we only really got 2 months of it. I'm not complaining, but fall could be a little bit overrated. So we're here to talk about our meaningful moments with hockey in our lives, courtesy of our friends from Alberta Blue Cross. So let me ask you, Ben, you a big Oilers fan? You a big hockey fan? I see you got a hat on there.
I mean, I think a lot of us that grew up in Edmonton, hockey's pretty big. I lived in Montreal for a long time too, and obviously people are pretty passionate about the sport there as well. But growing up for me, often under the Christmas tree there'd be a ticket to a game, and so I grew up, watching Gretzky play in Northlands and with the Whalers and all that. So just having those memories, that's really special. It's one of those things you start to feel like an older guy, but that's something to be able to tell people when you grow up.
I'm just entering my 30s, and I know I'm going to look back at these McDavid years like my father looked back at the Gretzky years. Tell me more about that. What was that like back in the day, reliving that? We've never actually seen a Stanley Cup parade here in this city in my lifetime. What was that like for you?
I think you grew up totally spoiled, right? And
true.
Oiler fans, I think in the Northlands days in the 90s got a bit of a reputation for being quiet, but I think you kind of had every ounce of excitement squeezed out of you at that point. You're pretty hard to impress as a hockey fan after growing up with that.
You mentioned Montreal, though. Hockey out there in Montreal. We were actually just talking earlier today. I think Montreal is like my favorite Canadian city. It's all castle vibey and super cool. What was it like watching puck over there in Montreal?
They're awesome hockey fans.
They're rowdy.
Like I will say this, Montreal hockey fans, and it was more when I was living there, it was kind of the Hemsky years, 2000s, and I saw every Oilers game when I was living there for about a decade, and they're really appreciative of just great skill and great players. So unlike other markets in Canada where it's just sort of like, if my team doesn't win, I'm mad, and I can think of a couple markets like that. Maybe I think the Montreal fan is a hockey fan first in some ways. Not that they haven't been pretty spoiled too over the years, but it's a fun place to watch. Hockey.
That's a different vibe over there. I mean, I think Edmonton is one of those cities where your mood kind of goes up and down depending on whether the Oilers win or lose. Last year, starting 2-9-1, I was a sad boy to start the season. I will tell you that. You also mentioned a couple of Christmas memories there with some hockey presents under the tree. I remember for me, I got a Ryan Smith jersey under the tree when I was like 7, 8 years old. I still have that jersey. It is still in my house. It has way too many stains on it to actually bring out. Any Christmas memories? You mentioned they're getting hockey tickets.
I mean, Smitty memories too. He was a pretty lovable guy, but I was at that game in the
See that right there?
Nice one. I was at that game in the 2000s when Patrick Steffen missed that empty net breakaway. And it's kind of a funny story because they're watching the game. We're losing against Dallas as usual. And Marc-Andre Bergeron, I think it was, gave the puck away to Patrick Steffen. And I missed the play entirely. I start swearing and I'm looking for my mitts and I'm finding my coat and I just hear the crowd roar and look up and the puck's going the other way and Smitty dishes it over to Hemsky for that move. So that was an amazing moment to be there for. I think we even ended up losing the game in overtime or shootout and nobody cared because it was such a special moment.
That's one of the coolest highlights you ever see. Every top 10 on TSN Sports Center, you always see that one coming back. It was a memory. Being in there for that building was pretty crazy. Did you get out to any Oilers playoff games this season? Get to feel the vibes this year? I know we fell short by just one game, but it was an awesome time to be in this city, right?
The city's always more awake for these moments. And part of me finds it a bit agonizing, right? Just feels like there's so much riding on these moments. Now that I realize how rare they are, going through the 2006 season cup drive that ended very similarly to this year. But, the most special moment for me recently is just, Leon Draisaitl re-signing here for 8 years, because that maybe portends of other re-signings and maybe the stability and greatness of the team long-term. And that's something growing up and watching all those guys leave after watching them win was really painful. And we're going to have some a bunch more good years with this team. So that's pretty exciting.
I think it's a sign of things to come. Even Connor McDavid said it himself that Edmonton's kind of becoming a destination to play in. You saw Victor Arvidsson, you saw Jeff Skinner come here this offseason. So let's hope. Let me ask you your prediction this season for the Edmonton Oilers. How are they going to do? Where are they going to finish?
All the way, man. All the way.
I knew I liked you from day one. Big shouts out to our friend Ben here, the brand and creative director from Alberta Blue Cross. Because if you're planning a trip, make sure you remember to pack travel insurance from Alberta Blue Cross. When you've got Canada's most trusted travel insurance in your back pocket, you can focus on making the right kind of memories while you're away. Visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information. Ben, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, man.